What is going on, everybody? We are back here live streaming for another episode of Bleav in Kentucky. Got Aaron Gershon from the Cats Paws, the QB1 for the Cats. Jalen Whitlow, fellas, man, how y'all doing?
Good, man.
Yeah,
Good.
man, can't complain. You got it's all game prep now, so it's getting close, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, fall camp is over. Got week 0 games coming up, so no more weekends without football from now until January, February. So everybody's withdrawal is almost over. They're about to make it to. We actually got games and stuff happening. So you know, get through that lean summertime, and it's almost here, man. High school's already starting. Jalen, you already got a game under your belt. So hey,
Yep.
it's finally here, y'all.
Yeah,
Finally,
it's here, man. It's here, and it's
It really
it's
is.
been a while. I feel like, but also feel like it was yesterday that the season ended. I feel like I was just watching Georgia and TCU, but now we're here. So
Oh man, the lovely Music City Bowl. Yeah. Now I can't tell if it feels like that was a long time ago or if it felt like yesterday. Definitely could see both of those, but man, so much has changed, with this program since that day. I mean, you knew some of the things that were coming along with I mean, it wasn't official, but we kind of knew Liam Cohn was coming back. Obviously, it signed Evan Larry, Ray Davis, and some of the first wave of transfers there, and kind of knew who was going to be portaling out. But yeah, it feels like a lot has happened since they've last played, but it also feels like that Music City Bowl wasn't that long ago.
as mentioned, we are live. You can go to Bleav.com and check us out at type Kentucky in the search. We'll pull up everywhere you can listen. We'll be there live right now on Twitter at Bleav in Kentucky, YouTube, Facebook. If y'all want to put comments in there, feel free. If you want to follow Aaron, Jalen, and myself, feel free. If you want to advertise on the show, holler at us or holler at the network. We would gladly talk up your business or product on the podcast. And now we got the live stream going. We can share your product on screen if you'd like that. Whatever you want to do, just holler at us. We'd be glad to do it. And got to give props to A Sea of Blue. They also put these episodes up on their site. And a lot of y'all find us through them. A lot of people are watching us on the YouTube now. Appreciate everybody subscribing. If you listen or you watch, however you want to do it, we definitely appreciate it. So we're looking forward to talking about games very, very soon. Like you said, Jalen, the camp is over. It's all prepping for Ball State now. Aaron, you writing about it now. You actually have games to write about instead of look. The articles are nice, man. The Trayvon Ripka article is cool. The counting down the wins is good, but I know everybody's just looking forward to having new material in the forms of games that we can watch.
Absolutely. Yeah, just being in the stadium, man. I'm just excited to get back to it. The whole routine that we get with the media, the Monday through Thursday grind of it, it's a lot of fun. I know it adds up. It's a lot. I've been joking with some of my friends, my girlfriend, my family that, hey, this is my last free weekend for a long time between football and basketball. So if you want to do something, this is the weekend to do it. But no, it's why you sign up to do this job. And it's a lot of fun. And I know for those guys, they're itching at the bit to hit somebody else. The coaches want to see, what they're, the things they've learned in the classroom and on the practice field. They want to see that in game action and see the progress. So, there's a ton of anticipation, obviously this season, getting the season ticket packages, all sorts of them sold out for, I don't know if it was the first time since like in a long time or first time ever, but obviously there's a ton of hype around this team, a lot of excitement for this season to get going. And, we're 10 days away here.
Absolutely. We had a couple of things. Like, look, Aaron, y'all check Aaron out on the Cat's Paws too. Always seem like I don't mention that when I should, as much as I should, but everybody check that out as well. You had a good feature on Trayvon Ripka today because, Deion Walker teams are going to either like try to not let him beat them, or he gets doubled or tripled.
Yeah,
frees up stuff for everybody else. However they do it, he's going to get a lot more attention than he got last year, and deservedly so. So if that's the case, somebody else has got to eat, man. Somebody else has got to step up.
Yeah, and I mean, Ripka was the starting DN last year and only had 1 sack, so I think everyone knows that number needs to go up. Brad White said it today that, they're going to be, like you said, there are going to be times Deion's double team. There's going to be times he's triple team. There's going to be a lot of attention on number 0, and as there should be. So, guys like Ripka on the end really, really need to step up, especially because they're going to have a chance to go against one-on-one matchups. They're going to, and Ripka told me, there's going to be times where they're so focused on Deion, they're not even going to worry about me. And maybe that's because you look at the stat sheet, you only had 1 sack last year. You look at some of the tape and some of the issues just that he's trying to improve upon, just staying on his feet, being better fundamentally. He gained some muscle, try to be a little stronger, help him, at the point of attack, get some pushback. Those things might have been missing last year. So the tension's going to be on big number 0. Same can go for guys like Ox. I mean, Oxendine didn't have the year he wanted last year. Some of the attention's going to be off him. Khalil Saunders, with Mark Stoops and Brad White, they're always going to rotate on the defensive line. They're going to keep the bodies fresh. They have a lot of quality depth there. So those guys got to step up. I mean, as good as this defense was last year, and it was really, really good, they didn't get to the passer. I mean, 20 sacks, that ranked 110th in the country. It ranked 11th in the SEC. That number's got to go up, and it can't just be on, Deion Walker's not necessarily going to be a sack guy. He's going to be a guy who, creates opportunities for those sacks, and he impacts the run game. He might get there once or twice. But it can't just be on JJ Weaver. It's got to be the Trayvon Ripka, some of the other D linemen, Keaton Wade. They got to step up. So Ripka was one guy that stood out to me because he was a starter all year last year and that production wasn't there. So kind of want to just get an assessment on where he was at, and it sounds like he's made a lot of progress.
So Jalen, as the quarterback, not every single offensive system, but a lot of times the mic is identified first. If you're facing a guy like a Deion Walker who will move around playing 3 positions on the D line, not just going to be, over the center, are you, sliding stuff to him? Are you peeking as you look for the mic? Are you peeking to see where 0 is when you get to under center? How does that work, man?
Yeah, I mean, those guys like that. I mean, as a quarterback, you don't want to get into that game. Peeking, peeking to seeing where those guys are. You don't want to get into that game, man. I've had games like that, and it's not good. It's downhill from there. But from an offensive standpoint, you do have to double, no doubt. Now, you guys remember 2018 Super Bowl, Rams and Patriots. First play, they did what to Aaron Donald? They whammed him. They trapped him first play.
Yep.
So you got to keep those guys like that off their, kind of off their game, keep them unbalanced, kind of change the speed of the game for them, change the dynamic of the game for them, leave them unblocked sometimes and read them, wham them when he don't see it, trap him, screen him when he's coming upfield, so you got to keep those guys up, kind of off balance a little bit because those guys will wreck your game, especially up front. I always tell people the hardest position to play is offensive line, and especially center. Center with a 0 nose, because first of all, the guy who's trying to, wreak havoc is like a foot in front of you, and you have to snap the ball and then deal with that guy every play of the game. So that's not easy. So he will cause some problems for teams, for offenses this year. But I'm sure you'll see offenses try to do a whole bunch of things to try to slow him down, run away from him, find out where he's lined up and see if they can trap him. Definitely double team him, with the combo blocks. Like I said, if they're rushing upfield, screen them. So you'll see the whole gamut, man. I mean, that's what these coaches get paid. They're gonna try to find a way to handle him.
So finding out where he is, that's not you doing it. You want those other linemen to find out and kind of work that out, make the call themselves. Because like you said, it's already downhill if you start, but y'all better know. Basically,
Yeah, it depends on the system. You know, some teams like when I was at Eastern, we would call a play. So our coach just called cut, and cut was you call the run away from the one tech on certain plays, and you got certain plays where you call it to the one technique, right? So you know, you got plays like that, or the nose. And, you know, if it's a nose, then that changes things because he's right in the middle. It's a zero. So you know, it depends on the system. Some systems try to call things, and they'll have a like a code word, and you'll call the run away from whoever you're trying to call it away from, because they can make plays. So, you know, you'll see teams try to do stuff like that. You know, a lot of those colleges have that in their system where they can, you know, throw a signal out there and call the run away from those guys. But yeah, usually it's the O-line that's identifying where those guys are. And most people put that on the offensive coordinator, or most offensive coordinators put that on themselves, rather have the quarterback making a call every single snap to get this guy situated. So everybody's system different. Some systems may make the quarterback, you know, handle that every snap, but I don't know if that's the efficient way to do things when you know, trying to get a quarterback to play fast, especially the young guys.
AG, I'm sure you were there, but for Stoops to say that, you know, we had to kick Dion out of practice, and because you know, he was disrupting everything. This isn't last year's offense, which you could probably you know, kick everybody out, and that defense struggle on air. The offense struggle on air the way it was last year. But for him to just say we had to get Dion out of there, I still think the offensive line is still improved and the offense is still improved. And that just kind of speaks to how much of a force he is, you know, in that situation.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about, you know, what it means for the offensive line. I don't think, it's not confirmed, but I don't think Kenneth Horsey was out there on Saturday. I saw him come in street clothes when the whole team came in from the scrimmage. So that might have been part of it. You know, I don't know who, it might have been Paul Rodriguez in that guard, or I think Ben Crispin's hurt too. So I'm not really sure exactly who was occupying one of the guard spots, Eli Cox being the other. Obviously, you know, Jagger's still a first-year center. So, you know, obviously he's going to need to improve. But, you know, Deion Walker, I mean, Jalen Carter's out of the league. I mean, I'm sure Georgia's going to have some great defensive linemen again. I'm sure Alabama's got some, and some of these other SEC teams. But you could make an argument. I'd have to do more research. But Deion Walker's as good as anyone who's going to see all year, which is a really good test to have in practice every day. But yeah, they wanted to gain some confidence running up the middle, and that was something I noticed at the fan day practice a couple weeks ago. Like, they could not run the ball up the middle where Deion Walker was. When they ran the ball well, it was using outside zone and getting it outside. So running up the middle has not been a strong suit during this practice session. We'll see if that, or during camp, we'll see if that is a problem, or if that's a Deion Walker being Deion Walker. So, you know, we'll learn a lot next Saturday, just like we did week 1 against Miami, Ohio last year. But I think it was just to get some confidence for those running backs, for those guards, and you know, let them hit somebody else, but also probably give Deion Walker some maintenance, right? I mean, you know what you're going to get from Deion Walker, just like you see in the NFL nowadays. You know, some of these veterans are getting practices off, just trying to keep them fresh and healthy. And, you know, when you have a guy like Deion Walker, and you know that he's going to show up and be a dude no matter what, it's okay for him to miss a couple snaps and get some other guys reps at that D tackle spot.
That makes sense too. The thing, and y'all jump in whatever jumped out to y'all too, but, you know, the big dog Vince Marrow saying that he had a serious problem, and he was not joking when he was talking about how to get all these guys in this tight end room playing time, and also the fact that he said 4 years ago Kamari Anderson would have started, you know, based on what we have now. But he said, you know, 4 years ago this dude is starting, and I'm like, wow. So that's, you know, that's a couple of strong statements, man.
Yeah. He's looked really good from what I saw. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was about to say, man, Big dog, he'll spill the beans, man.
Yeah, he will.
He'll spill the beans. But I think the most alarming thing that I've heard in the interview the past couple of days has been we had to kick Deion Walker out of practice to run a play. That is good and bad. It's really good and it can be bad. Now we all know that there's not many people in the country as good as he at that position. But I think that's saying a lot, man. When you tell the media that you had to kind of put a guy out of practice to get plays off, that's a lot. But yeah, I also think that it's with the tight end thing, man, it's a good problem to have because probably 10 years ago, he probably had a decision because he felt like we didn't have enough guys to do what we needed to do. So it's one of those things that comes with the territory when you're recruiting so well, man. I think I was just happened to be looking at Georgia Southern's roster. I didn't even know Keaton Upshaw was on Georgia Southern's roster. Yeah. I didn't know that. So that was a surprise.
They got
Bo Allen as well.
Lewis too.
Yeah. So that was for some reason I was surprised by that. But I do think they're good in the tight end room this year. He even mentioned 14 personnel. Now that'll be something to see. I can't wait to see that, man. That's like that's a big deal, man. You got 4 tight ends on the field at one time. They'll let you know you are recruiting really well in that department.
Yeah, no, they're stacked at tight end, and that might allow them to get a redshirt year out of Kamari Anderson too. I mean, yeah, if he's ready to go, and you need him, yeah, you play him. I think that's obvious, especially now with how the portal is. But if he's going to be patient and wait his turn, he's not quite developed yet. That gives you another guy that you'll have for 4 years after this one. And obviously he'll still get to play the 4 games. So right. You have Kamari there. You have obviously Brendan Bates has lost some weight. They're hoping that kind of pays off for him. And he wants to prove he's a little more than a blocker. He's a guy that's trying to make a statement and still, have an NFL career. So he's a guy they're expecting some things from. Josh Caddis, I mean, he's so fun to watch practice. That guy just brings so much juice. He's screaming. He's always saying something. He's a lot of fun, and he's a really good blocker. And he did some things in the pass game at the end of last year. He obviously had a 70-yard catch and run. And then, Jordan Dingle, we've barely seen him. He's been hurt. So, he got hurt, at the end of last year. He had a procedure, and he didn't participate in spring, and I think he just got back out there this fall. But he was the best. I think he was the best guy in that room last season. And then, we've talked a ton about Isaiah Cummings already. So they've got a big. He's got a problem, but a good problem to have in the tight end room. And I think it's kind of that way too. Just the playmakers in general. They have everything they need. I think when it comes to skill position players at wide receiver, tight end, running back, it's just a matter of keeping everyone happy, keeping the ball spread around, and keeping your quarterback upright.
No doubt.
Absolutely. Speaking of pro career, Bully McCall got waived by the Panthers, but quickly got picked up by New England. So.
Yeah, but he was actually I was just reading on that, but he has a knee injury that popped up in his medical. So he won't be signing there either. I couldn't believe, because I was shocked that he got cut. He played. I remember he made a really, really good play against the Giants last year when he was with Carolina. And I was reading some stuff about how they felt like they had a big time steal in him. So I wonder if there is an injury or something, because he's a talented dude. We've all seen it.
I hate that. I hadn't seen that. I hate to hear that he's got that injury situation. Bruce Feldman, this is a little bit old. This might have come out right after we recorded last week, but Bruce Feldman does his freaks, and Trevor Wallace was number 11, not 59 or 71 or whatever, number 11 in Bruce Feldman's top 100 freaks list. So man, that's
Yeah, I got to go back. I got to go back and watch film of him, man. Everybody's raving about him. So I want to go back and really just watch him and really see. I know he made a lot of plays and he's good. I just want to see how good he really is, because if you got a nose tackle and if you got a D line, the D-line that they have at Kentucky. And you got linebackers, that are highly touted like they say they are, or like people say they are, then, man, we may be looking at an exciting football season, man. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we all know that you got to win in the trenches. And Liam Cohen even said that he thinks it's a good thing. He thinks we're on the bright side with the competition at right tackle. He was like, it's not the fact that nobody will take the job. It's the fact that they're making it hard for us to make a decision. So that's a great problem to have as well. You got guys who are doing well in their own respect, and it's tough for the coaches to make a decision who's the guy that's going to get the nod. He also said that position battle may go on, throughout the season or beginning of the season. But like I said, they got guys at linebacker that like that, man, and he's ranked number 11 on the freaks list. You're talking about everybody. Yeah, he's number 11. That's a big deal.
Yeah, you've seen it. I mean, you saw that he made a comment on media day how like he doesn't like that he's remembered for that score on the Florida play, because he's like, yeah, they saw me run, but he wants to prove like I'm a linebacker too, like I could do it all at the position. We saw how well he played like against Missouri last year. I thought that was as good of an individual performance as anyone had on the team last year. The 2.5 tackles for loss, and 2 on back-to-back plays on the opening drive of the game to set the tone. So he is a freak from the speed standpoint, some of the athleticism he has, and now it's just putting it together and being a good linebacker, which he is. But there's just things that if he has a really strong season, he's gone. He's a 3-year guy. He's going to the pros. So he's a special talent. And Derek Jackson ain't too bad either. He doesn't have the speed that Trevin Wallace has, but he's got the football IQ. He's really, really fundamentally sound. There's just some things to clean up from just some recognition things that Brad White has talked about with him. But it's a pretty darn good inside linebacker duo.
And, we DeAndre Square for years, and, Jamin Davis, and now it is Wallace's turn, if you will, and he's, lying in the weeds under the radar. But, Feldman already has him ranked 11th, and Wallace doesn't even think he's done anything yet. Us Kentucky fans know that there's probably a lot more untapped potential there as well. Yeah. So if he, he's going to get his baby now. So if he does ball out, like you said, I mean, he's watch out.
Yeah. No, and it was also really important that they, added Davion Rayner, who's had success at NIU, and he has 3 years of eligibility, including this one, because we saw what happened last year. You unfortunately lost both guys in Jaquez and DeAndre, and you don't want that to happen again, but God forbid there is an injury there. You really needed a third experienced player, because there's not any experience at the inside linebacker position anywhere else in the roster. I mean, Martez Thrower has really only been a special teamer. Luke Fulton's been a special teamer. Like, they'd be in serious trouble if one of those guys got hurt. So adding Rayner too, huge. They're really, Jalen hit and made a really good point on the right tackle, how that's a good problem to have. There's just a lot of depth on this team that, last year I think we thought it was similar, but the offensive line proved it didn't have the depth. The outside linebacker position, I think, is still probably a group that needs some more depth there, especially after this year when JJ leads. But, there's some youngsters in that room that are going to come along. And I guess that's kind of the one position I worry about if JJ were to go down. I mean, I feel okay about Keaton Wade, but outside of that, Tyrese Fairbury, Noah Matthews, we haven't really seen them. But other than that, man, there's just depth all over this roster. You feel pretty good. God forbid a starter does go down. As long as it's not Devin Leary, you feel pretty good that this team can survive whatever it is.
That's why, you talk about the middle linebacker spot. That's why I try to get old boy from Northwestern just to – he went to Ohio State, but just to bulk it up a little bit, because, it's a long season. And
whatever happened with that recruitment? Did anything ever come of it?
Didn't he go to Ohio State?
Oh, did he sign with Ohio State?
Yeah, I can't. Is it Nigel?
You're Nigel? Probably right. Yeah, there's been so much going on that I just lose track of some of these kids.
Was it Nigel? Nigel was his name. Nigel Rose or something. I won't say Nigel Rose.
Nigel Glover.
I don't know where I got Rose from. Nigel Glover. But he ended up picking Ohio State, but that's
That's all right. Yeah, I mean they got Javon Brown, the kid out of Fort Lauderdale, who I Bleav is a 4-star. He might have been a high 3. They were able to kind of surprise a lot of people and win him on signing day. So there's some freshmen there, but that's a position. Grant Godfrey's kind of focusing on outside back right now, but so the future of those inside outside linebacker positions, are a little questionable. But for this year, inside they'll be fine this year. Outside, I worry if there's an injury there, but it's also a Brad White, Mark Stoops defense. They seem to prove us wrong every time we question any depth.
That's true. Well, man, we talked about it, Aaron. You brought it up last week. I don't know if it was recording or not, but we're getting the game week next week, but just throw out some predictions as far as the record this week and any other, extra stuff of, breakout players or, somebody so many catches or yards, but go through the schedule and get that win-loss record. So, man, Ball State. I
think we can run through the first 3. I mean, do any of us think they're going to lose to Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, or Akron?
No. And,
though I will say they're not going to lose, but Eastern Kentucky's got a quarterback. I mean, that Parker McKinney, he set all kinds of records at the FCS level last year, and he'll challenge you, but I don't think they have the wide receivers to compete against these SEC DBs. But he's the best quarterback on their schedule the first 3 weeks. There's no doubt about that.
And remember, Dorian Baker had to save the day against EKU.
That's right.
A few years ago.
And it was there was that one in 2015, and then 2017 they were losing after the first quarter, and that I think 27-16 was my first game I ever went to because that was my first year at UK. So that game was a nail biter. So yeah, EKU always seems to give them trouble, and they have a really good quarterback. So maybe that one will be a little closer than we all think or want. But Ball State, they have some players that I'll get into more next week, but not too worried about them. And then Akron, they have a dual threat quarterback in DJ Irons, but he's much better on the ground. They'll have to slow that down, but they usually do a pretty good job with those type of quarterbacks, as we kind of saw with Anthony Richardson last year, saw with the kid from Youngstown State, who's a really good mobile quarterback, but they were able to really limit him. So, they should be just fine through 3 weeks, especially with all those games at home. Though next year it'll be a little interesting when they have to go play at Akron. They haven't had a game like that in a while. So, but yeah, I think 3-0 is they better, and they will.
Yeah. So then you get Ray Davis homecoming, September 23rd.
28,000.
I'm gonna say. Well, maybe it'll be a sellout. It'll be a lot of blue in there though. Kentucky will sell it out, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they'll win that game. Again, I think Vandy's improved. I think we've all talked about how we think Vandy maybe can even make a run to finish 6th in the division, maybe get over either Florida or Missouri. I definitely think they have a chance to get into a bowl game, which they made it very clear at SEC Media Days. That's their goal this season. They want to go bowling. And I think A.J. Swan's a quarterback on the rise. He played pretty darn well when he was in there last year. I think it was a 10-2 touchdown interception ratio. So they're building something there. But, the guy that killed Kentucky, the 2 guys that killed Kentucky last year were Mike Wright and Ray Davis. And one is going to play for Kentucky and the other is at Mississippi State. So I like Kentucky by probably, in the 10-14 range.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was thinking more so 14 points. I think the trenches are going to be where they beat Vanderbilt. Up front, man, offensive line, defensive line.
Yeah,
I agree. So that's 4-0, and then Florida at home.
Yeah,
back at home.
That's a huge game for where this season's going to go, right? Because you don't think of Florida this way normally, but they are, I would say, of the rest of Kentucky's schedule, outside of maybe Louisville and Missouri, it's probably I don't want to use the word easy because it's not, but it's probably the game that you feel best about. Like you should win that game. They've won 3-5. Florida, I think, downgraded at quarterback. I mean, Anthony Richardson, for all of his ups and downs at the college level, was the 4th overall pick and is going to be an NFL starter in a week and a half. So Graham Mertz is just not that guy. And, we kind of talked about the concerns we had when Kentucky was evaluating him in the transfer portal and him possibly being the guy instead of Devin Leary. So, I think that game at home, it's Kentucky, Florida. It's not going to be a blowout. I think Florida has a really, really good run game that, Kentucky did struggle against the run a little bit last year. So we'll have to see some improvements there. And, they're going to have to handle ETN Jr. They're going to have to handle Montreal Johnson, and they have a really good offensive line. But some of the issues they have on the defensive side of the ball, the issues in the pass game, I think Kentucky will do enough at home to win that game by a touchdown.
So you, Jay?
Yeah, I think they beat Florida by a couple touchdowns. Man. I don't think Florida's very good at all.
I don't either.
I think they handle Florida pretty well at home. I think that potentially the largest margin of victory against Florida in a while.
That's a great trivia question. When's the last time? I mean, I know they beat them by 10 last year and they beat them by 11. They won by 11, but it was really closer in 2018 because of the that kind of funny touchdown at the end of the game where everyone kind of gave up on it and Devontae Robinson kept going. But what is the largest Kentucky margin of win?
I would guess, because I've had him on my other podcast, my Cats Talk Wednesday podcast. Juan Portela was a quarterback in 1979. They beat him 31-3 or 37-3 because that's
you said 79, 31-3.
That's a stat. He lets you know, as he should, because he was a QB that day. And they stomped Florida by 4 touchdowns, and that's one I've never forgotten. He's one of those old Wildcats, before my time, but it was cool to talk to him. And I think he even throws it in little hashtags on Facebook, 31-3 and stuff like that.
It's very close. So he's up there. But 1949, 35-0, and 1950, 40-6.
Okay.
So, and then it's that game. Oh, I'm sorry. 1917, the first ever matchup was 52-0 Kentucky.
What?
52-0, the first time they ever played. So
how do you find this stuff so fast, man?
Winsipedia. It's a go-to website when trying to get the all-time matchups. Winsipedia.
Okay. So
as soon as we got in that conversation, I knew to go right there.
One is the 4th highest, 28.
Yeah, he's the 4th highest. That 79 games 4th highest.
Okay, so that's
4. I think it would be 4.
Yeah. Okay,
they're 4 or 5. I might have saw another one in there.
We had to be in the conversation. But
he is in the conversation. In 1917, who knows what offense they were running in 1917? 1917, that put up 52 points. But Mark Stoops might want to find the film on that one.
5-0 going to Athens. First Saturday in October. Now look, we've seen the 16-6 game. We've seen a 14-3 loss at Kroger Field.
Yeah.
The 21-7 game in the rain.
21-0. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. C-Rod dropped a touchdown though.
C-Rod dropped a touchdown.
So
pouring rain. Yeah.
It's one-sided. Haven't beat Georgia in over a decade,
right.
But they haven't been, ugly.
No.
Tennessee last year is uglier than any Georgia game we've seen in years. To be honest.
Yes.
Tough sledding. They got a new quarterback, but they still got 50 million weapons around him. You already alluded to the fact they'll probably reload on defense, and they got some more guys that'll be playing for the Eagles after this season.
Ruining you and I's life, Vinny. Yeah, exactly.
So could Kentucky go down there and play with them? Yeah. Could they pull an upset? Maybe, but I can't bring myself to say that, I'll say Georgia 17-10. We can see that kind of game from these two,
No, I could see Kentucky making a game of it. I think they've always played Georgia pretty well. And I even think the game in Athens 2 years ago, I mean, I know they only scored 14 points and 7 were at the end of the game, but they played them tough. And Kirby Smart will tell you, he says that every time they play Kentucky that, we're as beat up as ever when we play Kentucky. They play us as good as anybody. But I also think an X factor with Georgia that is not being talked about enough is they had a Dominic Lovett from Missouri, the wide receiver. Right. And he was one of the best receivers in the SEC last year. Yeah. You put him with Georgia and their coaching staff and Carson Beck, who I think will be great there. I mean, he's a baller now, and obviously that takes some pressure off McConkey. You already have Brock Bowers, who I've said on this show many times, I think is the best player in college football. I think he should be a top 5 pick next year, regardless of his position. He's a monster. He's a humble monster, which those guys are even scarier to me when they just don't like to talk about themselves and they know they're just good and they go out and do their thing. So that Georgia team's a beast. I can't see Kentucky winning that game, but I can definitely see it being, a low scoring game, or at least, one where you felt like you come out of it and say, okay, Kentucky did some good things. There's stuff to build on here, but they're just not Georgia. So, I'm definitely going to the Dogs in that one.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I think Georgia's about to be the first team to, I don't know when the last time it's happened.
Minnesota in like the 30s.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the roster, man, I think Texas has, a pretty good roster, probably second behind Georgia, or maybe third behind Bama. But I just think, from top to bottom, Georgia's head and shoulders better than everybody.
Yeah.
You turn on the film, they're the most physical team, and it's really visible. They're the fastest team. They just look more explosive. They just look better. In this year in and year out for the past 5 years. I even said the same. I even said this in 2017 when they lost to Bama in the national championship game on the last minute, vertical throw by Tua.
Mm-hmm.
But I just,
Ryan Clark's good friend Tua.
Oh, that whole thing.
Yeah, that was crazy. They just Georgia's they're just the best team in the country, man. I mean,
yeah, they are.
I think, like you said, if Kentucky go in there, there's no moral victories. But if they go in there and play well, they can at least kind of find some stuff to hang their hat on and say, hey, we can build on this for next week, Missouri, and move on.
So yeah, it'll be 5-1,
5-1.
5-1 after Georgia, and then old Eli and them come to town. Old Drinky Drink.
We get a break from them next year. I like Kentucky in that one. Again, I think Missouri is a really good defense. I think it's one of the best in the conference. We saw it last year, and they didn't lose all that much. But I don't love their quarterback situation. I just touched on Dominic Lovett and how I feel about him. You take him out of that offense. Sure, Luther Burden has a lot of potential there, the former 5-star prospect, but I just don't see it. As a whole for the offense, new coordinator, even then, I don't see it. It's kind of similar. I think it's, they didn't get the offensive coordinator that is, a guy like, Petrino. It's not that type of situation where it's the Fisher, but anytime, your head coach is giving up play calling duties, it could lead to some messiness. And I don't know. I think Missouri's a 6 to 7 win team, but I don't think they're coming into Lexington and winning here. So I like Kentucky to, it's pretty, usually lately these games have been pretty close. So I'll say in the anywhere from 7 to 17 range wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just agreeing, and had them blown out the one year, and they let them back.
That was also the 2019. Every game was in the rain.
The C-Rod fumble, at the one you're going in.
Yeah, 21.
You're gonna blow them out, and then it ends up getting closer than it should be. But just go be the better team, and I think you handle business. And like Stoops would say, if they lose to Georgia, don't let Georgia beat you twice. It'll be one of those type. Bounce back and take care of business and get the taste of Georgia out your mouth.
Yeah, even though they beat Missouri last year, I think this is kind of a payback game. I think they come in there and thump Missouri.
Yeah, they didn't play well at all.
I think they thumped Missouri. I think it's 17-point victory. At home. Hopefully we got some good weather so we can see Kentucky be balanced. I do believe that if Missouri's good enough on defense, which they are, to get Kentucky being one-dimensional, it could be a different ball game. Because I do think Missouri has talent on defense. However, they lost the receiver. Kentucky's really good on defense as well. And I think just the overall balance of the offense, I think, they beat Missouri by 17 at home.
They can do it. So they get to 6-1, and then Tennessee is back.
Yeah, get the bye in between, right?
And there we go. That the off a bye week
Yeah, it's the whole week.
is been troubling. It's been an Achilles heel for Mark Stoops. Just like winning in Starkville has been whatever. Jalen, you talked about how it is down there, but what? And look, we all know Stoops long enough. You play for him, Jalen. The bye week thing. He'll say it. I've looked into it. We've addressed it. Don't want to shy away from it. I know it's a problem. And I'm not knocking him, but that's what he'll say. And no doubt they've all analyzed it to death, but just coming out flat and struggling on those bye weeks is just.
And I think a lot of it too, though. I mean, I'd have to go in and do the research, but a lot of it's the schedule. Like they end up getting a buzzsaw after. I know they won the 1 week. I remember they won off the bye week was in 2019, and they barely beat Arkansas, but that was a 2-win Arkansas team, and it was the first game that Lynn was playing quarterback. So you understand why the score was pretty close. But yeah, like I know Tennessee was obviously the game after the bye last year, and we know how good Tennessee was last year. I think 21 was Mississippi State, I Bleav, and obviously that one, we'll get into that game in a minute here, but I'd have to go look. I think a lot of that's scheduling too, but it's kind of weird that no matter what happens after bye weeks, it usually goes pretty south.
Yeah, I don't. You get coaches handle bye weeks a couple different ways. It's kind of what's happening at the time with your team. Are you healthy? If you're healthy, then you usually kind of practice with some physicality during the bye week on the days that you do practice full speed. And a lot of times, people use the bye week to start to implement things for the next few teams that they have to play. If they got a big game coming up, they really take that time to get a huge jump start on the next team that they have to play, which if I had to guess, Kentucky will do that with Tennessee coming in. Big game that I almost think this is a must win. I think it's a big deal, right this year with Tennessee, especially if Tennessee's doing well this year. I think it's going to be a big deal to beat Tennessee at home, to kind of get some mojo back in the rivalry.
So you're picking a win?
Yeah, I got him. It's tough, man. It all depends on how Tennessee's quarterback plays.
Yeah.
If he's lighting it up, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Because I do think Tennessee is good in other spots to, kind of get that thing going. If he's not lighting it up, which personally I don't know how good Joe Milton is. Obviously, we know he just
know he could throw the shit out of the ball.
Yeah, but I don't know how. I don't really trust his ability in game, and I think he's uber talented though.
Yeah,
I think he's the most talented quarterback in the country, by the way.
I do too.
Outside of Caleb Williams, but I just don't know if he got it all to put it together. So with that being said, if I had to, make a decision, I got Kentucky winning by a last-second field goal.
All right. Okay. So what about? I mean, you already made your pick, but Tennessee defensively with what we think this Kentucky offense could be, because they've been shaky.
It should be more like 2021. All right. Should be more like 21.
No,
45-42.
It's going to be a 37-40 game. It's going to be a 34-40 or 34-41 type. It's going to be high scoring. I don't see either defense being able to completely stop the other offense. And I think, to be honest with you, I think Stoops and them know that, man. At the end of the day, that offense is potent. It is what it is. Year in, year out, that style of offense does well. Now, also, typically that style of offense, for some odd reason, comes with a lackluster defense. You even go back to the Baylor days where Baylor had years where they probably win a national championship if they could play any defense. So, that's kind of what we're dealing with. But, I do think if Kentucky can run the ball, which they will be able to on Tennessee, in my opinion, I think they can get them. If they're struggling to run it, it could get a little bit hairy.
But a lot of times those type of offenses wear your defense out. They score so quick.
Yeah.
The defense is back on the field, and
Yeah.
You're gonna
just
need
so
that
many
short play.
plays.
You're gonna need that goldfish mentality these guys always talk about.
It's hard for me to.
Yeah. You want me to go first? Do you want me to give you a second here?
Go ahead.
My rule of thumb with these is if I haven't seen it, I can't pick it. So that's why I'm going. Though I do. There's I'd like this matchup more than I did last. I didn't think. I obviously wouldn't have picked 44-6, but I thought Tennessee would win the game by 2 or 3 scores last year. I didn't really see it happening for Kentucky with how bad the offense was. But this year, the way that Kentucky's able to score, or should be able to score, and I don't think you're going to have, Will Levis made a really boneheaded pick. As well as he played in that game, he made one of the worst decisions of his Kentucky career with that pick by Alontae Taylor, and that cost him the game at the end of the day. Yeah. So I don't think you're going to have that margin, happen again, because I don't think Leary's going to throw a pick. Or he might throw a pick, but I don't think it's going to be like an egregious one like that. So I like this matchup better than I did last year. I definitely think if things break right, if they get the stops they need to, Kentucky has the talent to win this game where I don't think they did last year. I can't pick until Kentucky stacks a couple wins on Tennessee. And I picked them to beat Tennessee going into 2019. They lost. I picked them to beat Tennessee going into 2021. They lost. So until they stack 2 on Tennessee, or it's just obvious they're the better team, I'm going to go with the Vols. So I'll say Tennessee by 3-7. But I do think Kentucky has a legitimate chance, and we'll see how it goes with Joe Milton.
In 2019, that's one. We can get into this later on in the season, but Jalen, what goes into being a clunker? I mean, they had no business losing to that Tennessee.
That was 2018. Team. That was the clunker was 18.
Okay, yeah, 2018.
Yeah.
And you go down there and get beat 24-7 and not even
I was there.
The game. So as but we can go into what you can't play perfect. Everybody's trying to, but you just ain't got it some days. The thing too that makes it harder, Tennessee is Kentucky's coming off a bye. Tennessee is coming off of playing Alabama. Which
that is
that
one thing.
Plays into Kentucky's favor. You got to go Tuscaloosa, then Lexington, 2 of the most physical teams in the league back to back.
Yeah,
that's got to factor in. Everybody's beat up, but then
that's a reason for hope.
Kentucky's playing. I mean, Georgia, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi State. They're right in the middle of their gauntlet as well. So, I guess I'll give Tennessee the.
I see the pain in your voice there, Vinny.
So we're 6-2 because, and Stoops and nobody in the building talks the history just is, and they're not thinking this way, but we are. We've seen a few wins here lately. 2020 and 2017, 2011. That's 3 more than we used to have over the past 3 decades. But I think Tennessee will find a way, and Tennessee and Mississippi State back to back. It's a split. If you beat Tennessee, you probably lose in Starkville. If you lose Tennessee, I think I'm jumping ahead. Maybe they'll finally end that streak in the start.
Yeah, they beat Mississippi State. They beat Mississippi State. Now, the Tennessee thing. The Tennessee thing is very tricky, man.
Yeah.
I can't call that one. I can call the Georgia one. I can call the Bama one. Kind of. I can't call the Tennessee game. I don't know. I just think it all depends on how Tennessee can make the playoffs this year if they have good play at quarterback.
Yeah, they can.
No doubt.
So,
and I know people hate to see it. People they hate to hear that. I get
it's
it.
Truth.
It's just the naked truth, man. If they can halfway play decent on defense, like halfway, and if the quarterback can do, if he replicates what Hendon Hooker did, which I think
he's more talented.
He's more talented, and he could potentially run the ball in between the tackles better. Which once they get that going, it's tough to beat. I mean, it's tough to stop, man. That offense is tough to stop. you're asking a D coordinator a lot. Georgia stopped the offense because, first of all, they caught Tennessee on a lucky day, man. It was raining. They couldn't pass the ball as well. I mean, and Georgia is head and shoulders better than everybody, but I just don't see anybody stopping that offense if the quarterback is playing good. I just don't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and they do lose Hyatt, who was amazing, and I'm glad he's on the Giants, obviously. But I'll root for him every Sunday. But they have some dudes at receiver. I mean, Brew McCoy is really good. They got what's that one kid who has the amazing name? It's Squirrel something. He's got
Squirrel White.
White. He's got insane speed. They got some depth at tight end. So they're loaded, man. And I think again, I do like this matchup better than I did going into last season. And I still have questions on some of the things. Tennessee did not have a very good pass defense last year. And a lot of that, too, was, they were up big and they're letting plays and just, making the plays in front of them. But I still have my concerns with their defense. So I think it's going to be a game. I think you're not going to see 44-6 or anything near that again. I'm not going to pick it to go Kentucky's way. So I know Vinny's with. Did you pick a winner or loss though, Jalen? Because you went back and forth there.
No, call it.
No, I picked the win.
Okay.
The win.
So you're at 7-1.
Yeah, I'm going 7-1 because for some reason I believe that they're gonna struggle. They're not gonna be as good at quarterback.
Okay.
And
I
went to the game last year knowing that Kentucky probably wasn't gonna win that game. That's the game that I went to in Knoxville. I mean. But this year, I think they have a chance because I don't know if the quarterback will be as efficient. And if that's the case, then I know Kentucky has the ability to light the scoreboard up this year. That potential is there. So, I'm going to go with Kentucky on this one for about, like I said, last minute field goal, beat them by 3 or beat them by 2 or something close.
All right.
That'll work. Starkville.
Win. They changed it. They flipped the script. They're gonna beat them this year.
I think they're the better team. I don't even think it's that close. I mean, I think Mississippi State's going through a lot. Obviously, new coordinators, new head coach, really emotional offseason. But I told you what my rule is, and I have to, as a man of my word, I have to stay with my rule. If I don't see it, I can't predict it. Because, why do I have to look? And how many times – and it's happened on both sides, right, where the better team has lost. Last year, Mississippi State was better than Kentucky. That's just the facts. And Kentucky, that game, I think, was not even as close as the 10-point score. And again, a bad throw by Will Levis, and the score is a little different,
right.
The pick six to Annual Force. Yeah. So, that, and then 2 years ago, when Mississippi State, their first year under Mike Leach, they had that game at LSU where they threw 7 touchdowns or something like that. And it was oh my God. And then 2 weeks later, they come to Lexington. Kentucky's 0-2, and Kentucky just gave up 42 points to Ole Miss, and they hold Mississippi State to 2 points. And they don't hold them. They hold them to 0 points. The 2 points were a safety. So, and they have a pick 6 in there. So it's man, you can't just pick the home team in these games. And you're I think Kentucky's better. I'm not, we'll see what Will Rogers does this year. I think he's a good quarterback. I mean, the numbers are what they are with the air raid, and some of that you got to obviously give him credit for operating and succeeding. But I'm not I don't think he's better than Devin Leary. I don't think he's better than Jefferson at Arkansas or Daniels at LSU. I think Joe Milton's probably better too. So I'm not, big on Will Rogers. I'm not big on State's offense as a whole. You lose Ra Thomas, who I think was the best receiver in that room a year ago. And then defensively, they have talent linebacker with Nathaniel Watson. They have some dudes, but for whatever reason, man, that game always goes the way of the home team. And just so I don't, I got to say I'm a man of my word. So I got to pick Mississippi State, even though I'm saying that with a caveat. I think Kentucky is a better football team, but just because I haven't seen it, I can't predict it. That's how I roll. Just like with the Giants, as much as I think they can at least split with your Cowboys this year, Vinny, I think they can. I don't know if they can beat Philly, but I definitely think they can take one from Dallas. I'm not picking it. I'm not predicting it because I haven't seen it in a while.
I get you. I don't know if it's a rule. I gauge it, and it doesn't always play out. But my thing is, if you're program is established and you got things kind of the way you want it as far as your culture and your roster and your team, you going up against a first-year coach, you should beat him.
Yeah, that's true too.
I know Arnett was there. He was a DC, but he slides over. He's the head coach now, but he's never been a head coach before. It's his baby. He's figuring out all that kind of stuff. This didn't work in Tennessee with Heupel. Heupel came in as the first year and got the win. But
Yeah,
when you're going up against
Pruitt.
Yeah, but I still think you're going up against a first year guy. You should
Yeah.
Like same thing we were talking about Louisville in a little bit. You going up against a first year guy at Louisville in Brom, that doesn't always play out. It's not like the first year coach is going to lose to a more staff. It's not that, but that's the way I tend to lean. So Arnett, I know this weird losing streak in Starkville. It is what it is. Will Rogers' new offense. Arnett's a defensive guy. He's gonna have him right because that's his baby and all that. His fingerprints have been on that even before the passing of Mike Leach. But I think Kentucky can go down there and put up enough points and frustrate Rogers enough, because he's a veteran guy, but he's in a new offense, and he's not the first guy to change offenses, and we've seen guys succeed. Jason Campbell did it. We talk about him on his podcast all the time. Yep. So I'm not saying Rogers could just transition smoothly and light it up, but I'm just saying Kentucky gets the win. First year coach Stoops, been here a decade. Go down there and beat him.
Yeah, and I think they should. I'm just not going to predict it because it never happens. But we'll see. We'll see.
Then the big elephant in the room, last home game of the season, senior night for Alabama coming to town, November 11th. Haven't seen this. Y'all weren't even born last time this happened, 1997.
Yeah, and Mark Stewart.
Yeah, and people want to say, well, that Alabama team, what did he get? Hey, who cares? Kentucky beat them. Man. It doesn't matter what they did the rest of the season. You hadn't beat them since 1922 before that. So
twice ever. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and this is Alabama. I have this sneaky thing where I think Alabama is really loving that they're being doubted and they're gonna come out and win 15 games and just stick it to all of us. I think they're gonna be really good. I think I really love LSU. It wouldn't surprise me whoever doesn't win that division is still a one-loss team and makes the playoff type thing. Like I think those two teams are great, and Alabama, I'm never gonna not be high on a Nick Saban team. I'm just not. And, there's some questions, though. I mean, the offense, I'm not a huge fan of the offense coordinator, Tommy Rees. I didn't love what he did at Notre Dame. Obviously, the talent he's going to have at Alabama is a lot different. And it's kind of the same thing you could say about Brian Kelly, right? Where it's like Notre Dame, it's like, they feel kind of weak on the lines of scrimmage, but they can't recruit those bodies to Notre Dame like you could at LSU. So maybe it'll be kind of the same thing where with some of the personnel Rees is going to have, it's going to work better at Bama. I like Jalen Milroe if he's the starter. The other guys I'm not too high on. And then obviously at the skill positions, they're a little suspect at wide receiver, but it's Alabama. They'll probably make it work. I think they're really good on the offensive line, especially with Latham up there, and they're stout on defense. They got pros all over that defense. So I think they'll be just fine. And that's another game where I do think at home senior day, a lot of big time seniors. JJ Weaver, Devin Leary. Could go on and on about how many big time seniors are coming up this year. I think Kentucky's going to be in it. I think they're going to give Alabama a real scare, but I'm not going to go against the Crimson Tide. So unfortunately, I'm predicting a 3-game losing skid here.
Ooh, yeah. So that's what 6-4 for you.
I have them at 6-4 for now.
So I got them at 7-3. Yeah, 7-3.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I actually believe that Tommy Rees is going to do a much better job than Bill O'Brien. And they're gonna
I feel like I just talked myself into that thinking.
Yeah, it's going to be much more balanced, much more physical, kind of bringing that physicality on the offensive line back for Alabama. I think
they're going to run the ball this year. By the way.
And whoever's the quarterback is going to have an outstanding season because they're going to be able to run the ball and take a lot of pressure off them. They don't have to be Bryce Young and drop back and pass 40 times a game. So, I just think if your name is not Georgia, good luck beating Alabama this year, personally.
Yep.
That's my 2 cents on it.
So that you got them at 8-2. 8-2.
Yeah.
All right.
8-2, 7-3, 6-4. As we're going. At South Carolina, revenge game.
Yeah.
You come up here and lost to them with the backup quarterback, and you try to get cute at the start of the game and gave them the ball at the goal line, and you pretty much gifted them a touchdown as soon as the game started, and you just never really recovered after that. So, I still think you're better than them, and been better than them, been dominating them, and as long as you're not ravaged by injuries, you've been winning Columbia for the past however many times you've been playing down there. Putting Lynn in at quarterback and probably would have won down there that year. They lost, so I think things return to normal in this series against South Carolina.
Yeah, I do too. I think Kentucky's going to win this game. And you look at, we were talking about how Tennessee might feel it, a little bit coming into Lexington, coming out of Tuscaloosa. South Carolina is just going to be feeling it from their season. I mean, they start with North Carolina, and Drake May is the Heisman candidate. They'll get Furman, but then they go to Georgia. They got Mississippi State. They go to Tennessee. They got Florida. They got Missouri on the road. They got A&M on the road. They'll get a little bit of a reprieve with Jacksonville State and Vandy, and then Kentucky and Clemson. Like, that is as good a schedule as anybody in the country. And
that's like death by firing squad.
Yeah, that's a hell of a schedule. And they're already a little beat up. Their left tackle is going to be out the whole year. They have offensive line issues. That's been pretty well documented. And Juice Wells, their star receiver, is banged up right now. Like, they're banged up now, and they haven't even started the schedule. Like, that's a tough one. And I think Spencer Rattler is more the guy we saw at the end of last year than the beginning. I just think the talent is too good not to be. And I do like some of their pieces at skill position. I think their defense is okay. You lose Zach Pickens, who I think was one of the more underrated players in the league the last couple of years. But, Hemingway is a really good player up front. So, and they obviously, they're one of the few teams in the country that their special teams gets points and wins some games. But at the end of the day, I'm not buying the South Carolina hype. I certainly don't think they're finishing third in the division, like a lot of people are saying. I think, they'll be either fourth or fifth. I think with this schedule, it's too tough. And I think Kentucky is going to be super, super motivated. Not only because I'm predicting them to, kind of need this game to keep a pretty decent bowl game alive, but also with how it's gone with South Carolina, how it went with South Carolina last year, and some of the things that have been said between the two teams, the rivalry that's kind of brewing, and it sounds like this is going to be Kentucky's permanent rival. Like, it doesn't sound like this game's ever going away. So I think it's going to get more and more chippy each year, and I think Kentucky wins this one on the road by 10.
What time? I wonder what time they're going to play.
Well, I think it's going to be a night game. You see, the Sandstorm is being performed live. Like, I'm telling you, South Carolina is making this Kentucky game, and I mean, it's a big game. Most of the games with South Carolina and Kentucky have been pretty close, even though Kentucky's won them. Like, especially in Columbia, it feels like Kentucky just escapes down there. Even 2 years ago, the offense played terribly, but the defense was so good they win that game 16-10. Yeah. But yeah, man, this is a rivalry, and those guys. I talked to Hemingway, the defensive tackle at SEC Media Days, talked to Kai Kroger, who's the best punter in the country, and they both said, like, that's a rivalry game. We circle that game, so I don't hate it. Like, that's not. It's like Missouri. It's like, oh, shut up, come on, Missouri. But with South Carolina, and so they have a better history. They're a better program. They have a really great atmosphere. I'm down with that becoming a rivalry. So I'm down with that.
The most underrated atmosphere in college football.
Oh, easily. It's my outside of the swamp. It's my favorite.
It's unbelievable.
My god, it's unbelievable.
my favorite place to play in college.
It's amazing.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right.
Easily. But I do think this is a tricky game. I actually have South Carolina winning this one.
Ooh.
Wow.
I think the quarterback is playing. I think, the way he ended last year at his talent level, he's playing really well. Now, obviously, we can't foresee potential injuries and whatnot, but I just think this is always a tricky game going down there, man. And I do think they're finally good enough at quarterback to beat some of these teams. I Bleav that. So, I think this is a tricky one for me. Rivalry game. I mean, it's an extremely tough place to play. For some reason, I just don't got a good feeling about this one. I think South Carolina, the guy can coach. He's getting that program kind of some pride back, in my opinion. So I got him. This is the third loss, man. Georgia, Bama, South Carolina.
I went Georgia, Bama, and Tennessee. So we finish up at Louisville.
Blowout.
I think they might. I mean, I'm not saying close the gap. I'm saying
They're going to be
better than Satterfield and a little more resistance than what we're used to seeing. It was what was it, 130 something to 40 past.
I'll do some quick math on that real quick. Give me a second.
56 to 10
56,
or whatever.
10, and then 45 to 30. Yeah, it's been. I'm going to get you the math real quick.
101 to 23 was those two. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get you the math while you're going here.
Last year, the offensive struggles, or else you should have beat them by more than 2 scores, because they only scored 13. It was 26-13 because the offense was terrible last year. So he's going to get it. Just like South Carolina. I mean, this is even more of a rivalry than that, of course, because in state. But he's focusing on it. He's trying to ramp it back up. He's trying to put juice back into it from their side of things. But not it. Once again, first year coach. He's same thing you got at Mississippi State. You got Jeff. Look, now Jeff Brom has been a coach before, unlike Zach Arnett. I understand that, but it's his first year at this program. I know it's his alma mater. He hates Kentucky. He grew up wearing red, the whole thing. But Coach Stoops, you here year 11, you got things set up. Just go over there. It's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. We know this, but still, we've went over there at a lot more of a disadvantage and won.
2016. Yep.
Yes. So the same thing, could happen this year.
Yeah, 177 to 57. That's the last 4 years. That's been the score. So, look, I think Jeff Brom's building something at Louisville, and I think it's, I'm not trying to discredit that, but it is the ACC. It's a little easier to build in the ACC than the SEC. He did a really good job in the transfer portal, at least numbers wise. Still not, sold on their quarterback situation. Plummer was kind of up and down at Cal. He was with Purdue, and he lost. Aiden O'Connell deserved to win the job, but he did have it and then lost it. So, he played his way off the field. So if that's really the guy they're going with, is he really going to be that great? I don't know. They have some returning talent. Obviously, they did a really good job last year getting after the quarterback. I think they led the country in sacks, but even with that, Kentucky's offensive line that was terrible last year held up. So, look, it's a different ball game, the SEC and ACC. Outside of that Florida State LSU game, and I think Florida State's by far the best team in the ACC this year, and that's even more so than Clemson. I am big on Florida State. Outside of that Florida State LSU game, I can't see many matchups, or if Florida State were to play, some of the teams in the SEC outside of LSU. I don't see many ACC teams that, and maybe Clemson and some that could, really beat up on the SEC. And I just don't think Louisville has the personnel yet to give Kentucky. I think they'll give Kentucky more of a game, but I don't think they have the personnel yet to beat Kentucky. And it's not and even at Kroger Field, there's not much of a home field in that game. Obviously last year, Kroger Field, I'd still put it at 70-30, but still even 70-30 is not anything near, a huge home field advantage that you would get in some other games. So I think, that's obvious. And when Kentucky, there's just more Kentucky fans. It's this, Kentucky is the state school. Like, they have more fans and they flood Louisville when they go there. So I'm going Kentucky. I still think they can win that game by 2 to 3 scores, if not more. But I do think Louisville, and I said it last week, I'm not going to go on the whole rant again. It is better when rivalries are competitive and there's parity and there's some unpredictability. But for now, I still think Kentucky is at least, 10, 15 yards ahead of Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a 20-point victory, maybe 24. I just think Kentucky beat them up in the trenches, man. You know,
exactly.
They run the ball on them, they stop the run, and make Jeff Braun want to throw the ball anyway. And they make them one-dimensional throwing the ball. Stoops' defense has always been good at pass defense for the most part.
I took care of the air raid at home.
Yeah, always been good in the pass defense. I remember our fair share of struggles in practice. And they just do a good job of coaching the DBs, do a good job of disguising coverages, do a good job of dropping 8, right, rushing 6 or 7, right. It's really good, really well coached in the back end. So I think they make them one-dimensional, and then they do what they do best, and that's play pass coverage. So I think they got them. They got them by 20 to 24, man.
So what do we got?
9
You guys
and 3.
are 9-3, and I'm at 8-4. I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And again, I could be swayed on the state game. I just am not gonna predict that. But look, hey, if they go 9-3, it's a chance for 3 10-win seasons in 5 years. Like, that would be massive for this program, and it's very much in reach to do so. And it's going to be, again, I think this is going to be a lot more of a fun year than last year was. I think it's a tougher schedule even than last year, but man, it's going to be fun. I'm excited to get it going next week. And, obviously we'll have a Ball State preview next week. I'm really excited about that.
Absolutely. Real quick, we talked about Bruce Feldman. He just tweeted out that LSU D lineman Mason Smith suspended for the opener against Florida State for receiving improper benefit. How do you even do that now?
How do you do that now?
Day and time?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I saw that a little earlier, but that's not a normal. Like, we were just talking about the LSU Florida State game, man. You don't want to lose dudes for that one. Like, that is not a typical week 1 game. That's not like LSU warming up against McNeese or something. Like, that is that's a big loss in a big game, and that could that I can't imagine there's any week 1 games that have playoff implications outside of that. So man, that's a tough one for LSU. We obviously know Florida State won that game by 1 last year. So
it was a wild game last year.
That makes it harder. LSU still got the guys, and I think can win it, but man, that's tough.
Yeah. And real quick too, flipping the basketball, Indiana, beat Kentucky the year Kentucky won the championship up there in Bloomington. Christian Watford hit the 3 at the buzzer, and they just hold on to that for dear life. They recreated it the other day at their fan fest for basketball. Had Watford come down the court, and dude tossed him the ball. He hit the shot again, and they fake celebrated all over again. Like 2011. That was like December or whatever.
Oh, it was
2011. So that's half your life ago, right, Aaron? That's half your and like close enough.
They
right?
did play in the NCAA tournament that year, didn't they?
Yeah. And Jalen, you were still at UK, right?
I was in high school, man.
Yeah, you weren't even there. Yeah, that was the year before you.
That was my senior year of high school.
Yeah, I was. That was 20. Yeah, I was.
School, right, Aaron? You're middle school.
Yeah, I was in 7th grade. Yeah, that was the year the Giants won the Super Bowl.
Come
yeah,
on. And they still just hyping this thing up every chance
they haven't had anything else. And I look like
let them have it, man.
Let them have it. And it's just funny, man. Like, as if they didn't play. It would be one thing with that NCAA tournament game didn't happen that year, and Kentucky didn't beat them.
Right.
And because they also obviously, I think the only other time they've played each other since then was when Indiana knocked Kentucky out in 2016. So then you could be like, yeah, we have bragging rights, and Kentucky's scared to playoffs, blah blah blah, whatever. but like you got your ass beat a couple months later on a way bigger stage, and Kentucky had the memory to they didn't really care about that game because they went out and beat you when it mattered. So it's just
won the title.
Yeah, and they won the whole thing. That's right. So, and they beat Louisville. They beat Kansas, who I think at this point they can definitely consider Louisville a bigger rival. And the way they play Kansas seemingly every year, they consider Kansas a bigger rival too now. So, look, it's silly. It's funny. Let them have it. But look, they're another team where you hope for the sake of the sport they turn things around. As a Knicks fan, I love Mike Woodson. He's the first coach that gave me anything good with the Knicks in my lifetime. So I'm a big Mike Woodson fan, but we'll see, man. I thought last year they were going to be a lot better than they ended up being, and they weren't bad last year. They just didn't hit the level I thought they might. So we'll see if that happens this year or not.
Absolutely. And now that we live, we talked about people DMing Jalen restaurants when he comes back to Lexington. Y'all can put that in the comments, tweet it at us, get that going again, give him some food recommendations and all kind of fun stuff, man. We're talking Ball State next week, like you said, Aaron. And
yeah, man.
Here we go.
Yeah, we'll have a depth chart to break down. Haven't done that in a while, so it'll be good. I'm looking forward to just focusing in on that game next week.
That's it. Well, man, enjoyed it. Y'all have a good week. We'll be back here next Wednesday doing the same thing, and everybody's excited. And we get a little nibble of some football this weekend to hold us over to the big stuff next Saturday. So everybody be safe, have fun. We'll see y'all next week on Bleav in Kentucky. For Aaron and Jalen, this is Vinny. We'll be back next week, y'all.